Now we're going to look at ways to adjust color, and we'll do that in the color palette. And the number one function in the color palette is white balance. There's quite a bit here, so let's take a look. First thing is this section here called setting, and you'll see a familiar list of presets that are reflected on just about every camera manufactured these days. As shot is the internal camera white balance. You can also choose daylight. Now, I will tell you that the daylight setting in your camera is set for sea level. If you get above 4,000 or 5,000 feet in elevation, you really should go in and set your camera to cloudy or shade to account for the increase in the cool setting of high elevations. So we can go through each one of these, and tungsten light, fluorescent light, flash shade, underwater, and then custom, which allows you to adjust these temperature and tint sliders the way you want them to look. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this one back at as shot, and it looks just a little bit cool. And so a very easy correction on this would be just to simply to give it just a little bit of a skosh over there to the warm side. And when you do that, it looks like it's taking on a green tint. And to get rid of that, you would adjust the tint away from green, and that looks like a decent result. I think anybody can live with that. Let's go ahead and return these back to their default settings, and then we'll take a look at the pick color, the color picker. And when you use the color picker, you want to find a white or a gray or a black area in your image to sample. And when you click on the color picker, the eyedropper, notice down here in the lower left-hand corner of the image space, you'll see a radius slider. And right now I have that set at 5 pixels. Now in this particular image, we can choose from this area over here that has a lot of detail in it. In other words, there's not uniformity in the shade, although it is a gray sweater, and that's what we're looking for. It's not uniform. Some areas are brighter or darker than others. Now down here, we have a little more uniformity because it's out of focus, and this is what you want to center on. Now, I can tell you that this door is white. It looks like it's a little bit gray, but it is white. So anytime you want to sample from an area that has less uniform color, you want to pick a radius that's larger than 1. So we can go as high as, let's say, 11 pixels on this, and then click on it, and there's a correction with the warmth. Now that's a little bit heavy. I think that's a little too much, although a lot of people might like that. Let's go around and sample and see what we get. In fact, we can move this just a little bit, click again, and get a slightly different result. Let's click on the white area of the little girl's toboggan, and we get a greener reaction. We can go somewhere else and get a still additional sample result. You can come over here and click. And so when you use this eyedropper, you go to different areas of the image just to see what happens. In fact, I can use my wife's hair up here, and that looks just about perfect. I really like that. And then we can also use this white door here. Click on that, and it's about the same as clicking on the gray hair up here. So here's before, and here's after, and I think that's a great improvement. Now, the same thing occurs with this basketball shot, and again, black, white, or gray, and we do have some gray areas here in the player's jersey. So let's go ahead and get our color picker and come in and just start clicking and see what we get. We click on this, and that looks pretty good. Now, the problem with this image is that it had a green tint to it. The player's skins really were looking unnaturally green. So let's double click on this, and you can see that, yes, indeed, it is green. Now, again, let's take the color picker, and we'll click on the gray area of the jersey. This area up here is white, so we can click on that, and that makes it just a little bit cooler, and I'm liking this result right here. We can also click on the white area. Let's just do it to see what happens. And then we have a white area down here. We also have black in the player's shoe. And that takes us back to almost the original poor color balance. So it's just a matter of clicking on different areas to see if you can get the result you really like. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that and keep it. Now, to some people, they might consider this to be a bit too cool, but I like this result. The problem you have with indoor lighting is that it's impossible to get an in-camera setting that's going to be perfect. You can get close, as we did in this one, but it's almost impossible to get a really in-camera perfect white balance anytime you're using indoor lighting, unless it's strobe lighting that you're familiar with, or you use a tool like an expo disc or some filter to put on the front of your lens in order to establish a custom white balance in your camera. It's almost impossible to get perfect white balance when you're using indoor lighting. Now you'd say to yourself, let's go back to this list, and yes, we do have fluorescent. Let's take a look at what that would look like. I think that's just a bit too cool. Tungsten? Nope, it's not going to work. And really nothing else is going to work as well as that color picker sample tool that we ended up using. But I'll go ahead and just run through some of these presets so that you can see the difficulty that you have anytime you use these presets. And then underwater is just horrible. It's just so red to be ridiculous. We'll go back to custom, and then we can adjust it as we like. We'll take the color picker, we'll come in, we'll come in, click on the jersey, and that's looking pretty good. But this is the one, this is the area right here where I think we got the very, very best result. So that's the white balance section in DxO PhotoLab.